I'm Tessa Reed, and if we were sitting in a booth with cheap coffee between us, I'd tell you how a Tuesday went sideways in 3 heartbeats. A 5-year-old's eyes rolled cloudy, her little body went slack, and my tray hit the floor before her head did. That was the moment. Harbor and Hearth went quiet, even with 20 phones pointed at us like spotlights, and I said louder than I meant, "She's seizing call 911 because kids borrow your calm," and I had to sound like I believed we had time. I knew that sound, the frantic chirp of a glucose monitor chewing through the air. I'd heard it in ambulances and kitchens, and once in the back of a minivan, while a mom sobbed into the steering wheel. So I slid on my knees, loosened the girl's collar, kept her turned safe, and reached for what I always carry in my apron, like an old superstition, a honey packet. Yeah, honey gums, not throat small swipes, talk while you work. And then Money walked through the door, all navy suit and expensive panic. "What are you doing to my daughter?" he snapped, hand clamping my wrist. And when I looked up, I recognized Grant Whitaker from billboards and business shows, the golden wolf of Harbor City, the guy who buys companies like the rest of us buy socks. "Get away from her," he barked. The room gasped. A paper cup smacked my shoulder, cold coffee down my sleeve. Somebody said, "She's trying to be a hero," and for one razor second, I felt that old sting, the one you collect when people see a problem first and a person second, if ever. I yanked my arm free, steadied my breath, said, "You can throw me out later, but if you want her alive, let me do this now," and to his credit, he froze just long enough to follow my voice. "Hold her head still," I told him, good. Just like that. And I swiped that honey along Sophie's gums, slow and steady, murmuring nothing words, because the brain listens. The monitor dropped, then flickered, then climbed 42, 49, 55. And when she whispered, "Daddy," the whole room exhaled like a wave pulling back from shore. Sirens painted the windows, medics took over, and I was just a waitress with sticky fingers and a bruised arm, watching a stretcher roll away with my heartbeat on it. I hid behind the ice machine for a minute, hands shaking. "Lydia." Our manager crouched beside me with a napkin like it was a magic wand. "You did good," she said, and I said. This time because 3 years earlier, Highway 84 fire and glass, and a boy with hair stuck to his forehead. I froze for 30 seconds. That branded me from the inside out. The review board cleared me on paper. Paper doesn't sleep for you, so I bagged my uniform and traded sirens for ticket chits, you know what I mean. An hour later, the bell rang, and there he was, without the armor, tie loose, eyes red. "How did you know what to do?" Grant asked, and I said I used to be EMT, and he said, "Her mother died from DKA. I sent her to voicemail." I live with that silence, and we just let that sit between us like a hot coal until he slid a thick cream card across the table. "Sophie's birthday, children's memorial." She asked for the honey lady, and then he did something I didn't expect, he said. "About Highway 84. I can get you the full report, not the PR version. The truth, yeah, that happened. I spent 2 days orbiting that card like it might bite. Then I unzipped the plastic around my old shirt, pressed my thumb over the stitched reed, and told myself, brave isn't never scared. Brave is bringing your fear with you and walking in anyway. So I walked into a ballroom full of balloons and hand sanitizer, almost turned around at the door, until Sophie barreled into me with a sparkly belt and a pump clipped at her waist, smiling like we'd known each other forever. "You came," she said, and something inside me that had been clenched for years loosened a notch. Grant's shoulders dropped another notch when Dr. Naomi Keller took a mic and said, "Ms. Reed, your license lapsed. It wasn't revoked. If you want back in, I'll sponsor your recert and offer a spot on pediatric response. and I surprised myself by saying yes before my doubt could catch up. Back in a rig muscle memory, took the wheel Diego. Alvarez, my field mentor, watched me check gear like a mechanic who labels his wrenches. We rolled to a playground. Kid swelling, mother, trembling, epi. In breathing again, Diego said. You were born for this, I said. I froze once, he shrugged. You moved today, and I wanted that to be the end of it. But pride rarely travels alone, and systems hate mirrors. So the hospital sent a memo freezing all reactivations tied to historical concerns. The cafe windows got painted with liar and fraud at sunrise, and I dragged a hose around the block and washed it off, letter by letter, while a stranger live-streamed me scrubbing spit off my own name. Detective Mooney, retired and kind-eyed, told me, if they're going to retry you in public, you tell the story yourself, and that's what we did. Grant brought in a cyber guy who could find ghosts in a mailbox. We pulled dispatch crumbs from Highway 84, found a memo from Unit 17 before I ever reached the nurse who died. Flagged unstable abdominal trauma, suspected need, eyes now. Audio and metadata intact but missing from the master log. The name on the memo made my stomach drop. Rena Park, my old partner who could recite the PIDS box like a lullaby. She'd left right after the hearing. We met at midnight in a church parking lot. Two shadows under a busted streetlight. They told me to amend the report, she said. Voice breaking on old shame, said it was administrative, said it would protect the department. My mom was sick, I was drowning. I signed, and I stared at the asphalt between us and said, it's not too late, bring the original, bring yourself. And she reached under a taped drawer in her apartment and handed me a dusty drive like a relic. We walked into the Civil Medical Oversight Board, which is a courtroom that pretends it isn't Dr. Eliza Hart at the center, with the posture of a woman who's had to teach men their own footnotes. Lawyers lining both sides, nurses and medics, filling the gallery in scrubs and tired hope. I told them my name, told them. I froze for 30 seconds and paid interest on those seconds every night, since told them this wasn't about my shame so much as a document that got buried, and how burying a document can bury a person. We played Rena's audio handed over chain of custody, like a clean shirt. And I watched the truth unfurl on their faces. The recess lasted 60 minutes and 6 years. Then Dr. Hart folded her hands and said, Ms. Reed, your record is expunged, Miss. Park, your testimony is accepted and referred to the Attorney General. This board recommends investigation into procedural misconduct, and I didn't cry. Not then, I just breathed like I'd been under a wave and finally found the air. Outside, a woman with a photo curled at the edges waited. I'm Lisa's mother, she said. Grief has a smell. You can tell it like rain. I wanted the truth more than a villain. Thank you for fighting for my daughter. When it cost you. She pressed a picture of Lisa laughing with 2 boys into my hands and told me to remember her like that. And I do every time I open my fridge and see Sophie's crayon drawing that says she shows up anyway, taped next to it. Dr. Malcolm Voss tried the usual corporate dance, no comment. Internal review emails with subject lines like, finalized scapegoat. Documentation. 1 leak later, the city turned on the lights. He resigned with a cloud over his head. The hospital rewrote policy with teeth sharp enough to make administrators flinch. Whistleblower protections stopped being a poster and became a door you could actually walk through, and my life got loud. Some called me reckless, some saint. Most called me at dinner time. I turned down shiny couches and picked a small radio show that rides in plumbers' vans, and on Saturdays I teach a class at the EMT Academy with no mannequins. We talk ethics, silence, and the day you meet yourself in a scene that won't let you lie. Every cadet writes a sentence on an index card. Mine says I show up anyway. Grant didn't vanish either. He showed up with time instead of checks, drove us to meet Rena, stood at the hearing without swallowing my mic, made pasta that tasted like he read the recipe on an elevator. And he apologized for grabbing my wrist in the cafe. I apologized for slicing him with my words. We both decided to try to be the kind of people we'd want near our kid when the lights go sideways, you know what I mean. If you want the splinter with the sweetness, a week after the hearing, a blurry screenshot landed in my inbox courthouse hallway, me stepping off the stand, and way in the back, a woman in scrubs half-turned by a water fountain. Subject line read, "You weren't the only one who froze." Rena swore it wasn't her, Mooney couldn't trace it. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe the system that ate us once is still hungry. Maybe someone else is finally ready to say what they swallowed. That's the thing with truth. It clears the air, but it leaves scorch marks, and sometimes you learn to live with the pattern. So tell me, if you'd been in Harbor and Hearth that day, would you have thrown a coffee cup filmed for clout, or held a child's face steady and waited to hear her say, "Daddy"? When a system makes a mistake, who should bleed the truth or the people telling it? Was I reckless, right, or both? Yeah, that happened. And I'd pay the cost again. Because showing up isn't about being fearless. It's about carrying your fear and stepping in anyway. If this hit a bruise you've been carrying, talk to me in the comments. Argue with me, tell me where I got it wrong, or where it matches your life. Share the time you were misjudged, or when someone stood up for you. And if you've seen a truth get buried or dug back up, I want to hear that too. Like, subscribe if stories with splinters are your thing, and answer me this. When the room turns on, do you step back or do you step in?